Okay, so I'm going to work through the packet that I gave you yesterday on number systems with you, so you'll have the answers and know how to work the problems. We will take a test tomorrow. If you have questions, I will answer any questions before the test and make sure that anything that you didn't understand on this video or while working the packets, I'll make sure any of that is answered if you have questions before we take the test. So I'm going to start with NS1, and we're just going to use the calculator and go through these and answer them and make sure we know how to do them. Number one, what is the decimal equivalent of the rational number -1/8? So you just put that in the calculator. That is 1 divided by 8. So that's 0.125, and it's negative. So my answer to that one will be A, -1.25. All right, number two, what is the decimal equivalent of the rational number 6/11ths? So 6 divided by 11 is 0.5454 repeating. So that's going to be C, 0.54 with a bar over it, and that's the answer. Number three, what rational number has -0.875 as its decimal equivalent? Well, you can do this two ways. You can take the decimal in your calculator and hit second and the FD button to turn it into a fraction, or you can take each one of the fractions, A, B, C, D, and divide it to see which one's equivalent to -0.875. Either way is appropriate. There's nothing wrong with either way, but when you do, whichever way you do it, you do find that 7 divided by 8 is 0.875, and it's negative, so it's C. And again, you can do it either way. You can either use your calculator to turn the decimal to a fraction, or you can use it to turn the fractions into decimals and see which one's correct. Number four, Pierre worked 5 3/8 hours today. What is the decimal equivalent of 5 3/8? Well, we know 5 is our whole number. And if you look at A, B, C, and D, they all have 5 as a whole number. So I really just need to know what is 3 divided by 8. And that's 0.375, so it's C. Number five, select all correct answers. That tells me there's going to be several correct answers. So, number five, a company can hire 99 new employees. There are 243 applicants. Which of the following rational numbers represents the ratio, that's a fraction, of applicants to available positions? Well, applicants is the 243. So applicants to available positions would be 243 over available positions. They can hire 99 new people, so that's 99. So the answer is 243 over 99. Now what we have to do is figure out which ones of these is equal to 243 over 99. So if I divide that, 243 divided by 99 as a decimal is 2.45 repeating. So that's C. Then I know that as a fraction, if I hit second and turn that into a fraction, hit the FD button, it's 2 5/11ths. That's F. And then the last thing I need to do is figure out if I make that an improper fraction, it's 27 over 11. Another way that you could do this is to take the fractions D, E, and F and see which one of these, when you divide them, is equal to 2.45 repeating. So you could do that as well. But the answer is C, E, and F. Okay, number 6 on the next page. Which rational numbers fall between 2.7 and 2.8? So we're needing numbers between those. Just take your first one, and 11 divided by 4, that's 2.75. That's definitely between 2.7 and 2.8. The next one, 2 and 19 over 25. Well, 19 divided by 25 is 0.76, so that's 2.76. That's correct. The next one is 21 divided by 8. 21 divided by 8 is 2.625. That's not between 2.7 and 2.8. The next one is 2 and 41 divided by 50. That's 2.82. That's too big. 277 divided by 100. That's 2.77. That's an answer choice. And the last one is 2 and 5, 6. 5 divided by 6, that's 2.83 repeating. So that one's too big. So it's A, B, and E. Okay, 7 through 11. We're just going to match these up. So just divide them in your calculator. 41 divided by 33 is 1.24 repeating, and that's negative, so that's E. The next one is negative 112 divided by 90, and that's going to be 1.24 repeating, so that is going to be F. 31 divided by 25 is going to be negative 1.24, and I'm just punching these in the calculator. 338 divided by 330, and that's going to be B, negative 1.024, where just the 24 repeats. And then last is negative 128 divided by 125, and that is going to be A, negative 1.024, and it stops. Okay, number 12. On a final exam, Alex answered 21 out of 25 questions correctly. He needs to score at least 80 to receive a B in the course. Written as a decimal, what portion of Alex's answers were correct? Well, we know he got 21 out of 25 correct. If you convert that to a decimal, 21 divided by 25 is 0.84. B part, how many questions need to be answered correctly to receive a score of 80%? Well, to get 80%, he would have to get, out of 25, he would have to get 20, because 20 divided by 25 is 0.8, which is 80%. So how many questions? 20 questions he would have to answer correctly. And the last one on that, C, did Alex score at least 80% on his final exam? Yes, and it says give 2 reasons why. And I would say because 0.84 is greater than 0.80, and because 21 out of 25 is greater than 20 out of 25. And those are the answers to that question, number 12. Okay, number 13. Does 0.010110111 and so on represent a rational or an irrational number? And I would say irrational. And the reasoning I would give, it doesn't repeat or terminate. Number 14, a local middle school has 99 computers and 333 students. What is the number of students per computer at the school? So students is 333, per computer is 99. Write your answer as a rational number and a decimal. So as a decimal, 333 divided by 99 is 3.36 repeating. And as a rational number in simplest form, 333 over 99 is 3 4/11. And that would actually be, as an improper, 37 over 11. Okay, number 15. What rational number has 0.34 with the 4 repeating as its decimal equivalent? Well, if you put that in your calculator, 0.3444 repeating, you can convert that into a fraction. And that gives me, I didn't go far enough. I believe that will give me, I need to divide that better. 31 divided by 90, 31 over 90. And I don't really have to show my work because now we have calculators that will do that, so I'm just going to make a note that the calculator converted that. Number 16, sometimes the rational number 22 over 7 is used as an approximation of pi, which decimal form is 3.14159 ... which neither terminates nor repeats. To how many decimal places does the decimal form of 22 over 7 agree with the decimal form of pi? So 22 divided by 7 is 3.14285. 3.57 ... And pi is 3.14159 ... So to how many decimal places does it agree? I would say 2, because the 1 and the 4. So only 2 places past the decimal agree. Okay, we are going to mark out 17. We don't have to do that one. 18, write the decimal equivalents of 1/11, 2/11, and 3/11. Okay, so 1/11 is 0.09 repeating. 2/11 is 0.18 repeating. 3/11 is 0.27 repeating. And you can see a pattern. So predict 9/11, which you can do it on your calculator. But 9/11, if you follow the pattern, basically you're multiplying 9 times the top number. So 9/11 would be 9 times 9 would be 0.81 repeating. But again, you can do that in your calculator and that's fine. Okay, 19, on a recent math test, Marcos was asked to find the decimal equivalent of 22/25. He gave the answer 1.136 repeating. Find the decimal equivalent of 22/25. So 22 divided by 25 is 0.88. And decide whether Marcos gave correct or incorrect answer. So Marcos is incorrect. And then the last part of that, B, what mistake did Marcos likely make? Marcos likely, or he did 25/22. He divided the wrong way. So I would say he mixed up the top and bottom, or the numerator and denominator. Okay, so on NS1-2, we're going to look at square roots. So number 1, between which pair of decimals does square root of 13 fall? So if you take your calculator and you do square root of 13, I got 3.605 ... So that's going to be between 3.6 and 3.7. So that's C. Always what you see is the first part, and then the next part will be the next one up. Number 2, the number E is an irrational number between approximately equal to 2.718. Between which pair of square roots does E fall? So if you just go through and try A, B, C, and D, square root of 2. Well, square root of 2 is 1.4, so that's too small. B is square root of 5 and square root of 6. So square root of 5 is 2.236, so that's too small. C is the square root of 7. Square root of 7 is 2.64, that's too small. So let's try the next one, square root of 10. I'm sorry, let's back up. Back up to C. Square root of 7 is 2.64. And then square root of 8 is 2.82. So that's going to be the answer, C. Sorry. Okay, so number 3 to the nearest tenth. What is the value of the square root of 2 to the third power? So we're going to put that in parentheses and do square root of 2, close parenthesis, and then raise that to the third power. And that gives me 2.8284, so that's going to be D, 2.8. Okay, number 4, select all correct answers. So which of the following numbers fall between 4.7 and 4.8? So we just have to figure them out. So square root of 22, that's 4.69, so that's too small. That's out. 1.5 times pi, that's 4.71, so that's an answer. C is the square root of 91 divided by 2. So that's 4.77, so that's an answer. D is 1 plus the square root of 15. So 1 plus the square root of 15, is 4.87. That's too big. 2 on the square root of 6 would be 2 times the square root of 6. That's 4.89897, so it's 4.9. That's too big. And then 5 minus pi. And 5 minus pi is 3.14, so that's too small. So the correct answer is B and C. And those you just have to punch them in the calculator and see what it gives you, and it has to be between 4.7 and 4.8. It cannot round to that. It has to be exact. Okay, number 5, suppose each irrational number below is approximated by the whole number to which it's closest. Which of the irrational numbers have whole number approximations that are even? So we're going to plug these in the calculator. We're going to round them to the nearest whole number. And then we're going to see which ones are even. Even like 2, 4, 6, 8. So A is 2 on the square root of 32. So that's 2 times the square root of 32. That's 11.3. So to the nearest whole number, that's 11. And that's not even. B is 5 plus the square root of 18. That's 9.2. So to the nearest whole number, that's 9. And that's not even. C is the square root of 24. That rounds to the nearest whole number 5, and that's not even. D is the square root of 52 minus 3, and that is 4.2, which rounds to the whole number 4, and that's correct because that's even. E is 3 times the square root of 14. That would be 11.2, so that's 11, and that's not even. And the last one is the square root of 20 plus the square root of 26. So the square root of 20 plus the square root of 26. And that's 9.57, so that rounds to 10, and that is an even number. So it's D and F. Okay, number 6 on the top of the next page are yes and no questions. Determine whether each number is greater than the square root of 10. Square root of 10 is 3.162 ... So I just need to plug these in the calculator and see. Square root of 3, make sure when you put in like square root of 3 plus square root of 6, you close the parenthesis on each one. Because if you don't, you'll miss it. That's 4.18, and that is greater, yes. 2 times the square root of 3. That's 3.46. That is greater, yes. Square root of 22 divided by 2. That's 2.34. No, not greater. Square root of 14 minus, I'm almost done, square root of 3. That's 2.0, so no. And the last one is the square root of 10. So you actually type it in like that with 2 square roots. You're doing the square root of 10 and then the square root of that. And that's 1.77, so that's a no. We're going to omit number 7 and then 8. Okay, so on the back side of NS.2, number 8 we're going to omit. We could actually work that. That is distance between 2 points, which is Pythagorean theorem, but we're going to save that kind of question for our unit on Pythagorean theorem. Number 9, there's a graph. I'm not going to give you anything like this on the test, so let's omit it. Number 10, after testing several numbers, Jacob wrote the following conjecture. A positive number n is equal to its square root if n equals 1 and is greater than its square root otherwise. A part says find the decimal approximation for the square root of 0.5 to the nearest tenth. So that's 0.7 to the nearest tenth. B part, does your answer to part A support Jacob's conjecture? Well, Jacob said a positive number n is equal to its square root if n equals 1. And it's greater than its square root otherwise. Well, that does not. So I would say no, it doesn't support it. And the reason is because by what Jacob said, the square root of 0.5, the answer should be less than, because the 0.5 should be greater than 0.7 going by what he said. So I would say no, because 0.5 is not greater than 0.7. And that one's a little bit confusing, but I'm not going to give you anything like that on the test, so don't worry about that. But that's the answer to those. And then C part and D part of this one, we're going to mark out and not do. And that's all of it. So you will take a test tomorrow on number systems. Most of the questions on the test, if not all, are going to come from the multiple choice and the select all answers. So make sure you can do those. Those are the ones that are most important. And I'm going to give you an assignment now to do in ELS as practice. So look back at Canvas and you'll see the code there.